back, everyone. Today we have the second season of the Emerging Markets Retail Podcast. We will discuss the future of retailing in emerging markets. Rafa, can you tell us a bit more on this?
Of course. So emerging markets, as you all know, and this is the reason why we do the podcast, right? Emerging markets are currently located in a very exciting, point, given that there will be, lots of changes coming in these economies. First of all, I mean, we're talking about, a very, very large population base. So 6.56 billion people in 2020, 86% of the global population living in emerging economies. And at the same time, we see that many of these countries are experiencing, rapid GDP growth, which is going to lead to, a huge spur of innovation in the upcoming decades. And as such, retailers will be experiencing drastic changes to their strategies. And today we have a couple of guests. Camilo is going to tell us more about this, who have, been examining this very, very closely. And so we're really excited to have them on board to share with us some of their insights in terms of what is going to happen in the future of retailing in emerging markets. So Camilo, who do we have with us today?
Well, we have two outstanding guests. We have Dr. Divya Ramachandran. She's an assistant professor of marketing at the Asper School of Business at the University of Manitoba. And also Dr. Shaphali Gupta. She's a Mani Iyer Chair Professor of Marketing at MICA in the Strategic Marketing Department. And yeah, as you were mentioning, Rafa, we are going to discuss part of their research. They published a paper entitled Emerging Market Retail Transitioning from a Product-Centric to a Customer-Centric Approach. So why don't we jump into the next part of the episode and discuss with the experts?
Let's go for it.
Yes, let's go.
Very well, welcome back. And here we have our guests today, Shaphali and Divya, to discuss the work on how to transition this product-centric approach to a customer-centric approach. So perhaps, Simona, you can kick off this Q&A session,
Yes, thank you, Camilo. So we had a very important question for you to talk about first. Like you say, it's very important to switch from a more product-centric to a customer-centric approach. And we first wanted to ask you, can you explain to our listeners what you mean with this and why it's so important?
All right. So before we move with the discussion related to the retail context, but let's try to understand what exactly these two approaches are. Like, what is this product-centric approach and what is this customer-centric approach? So if we look at it, the name itself suggests what is the product-centric, which says that manage the product. The decision making or the management is more focusing on managing the product, right? So more than the they are looking for the customers, but they are looking for that which product is profitable to sell and how many customers can we sell this product to, right? So basically the marketing decisions, all the marketing decisions, whether it is investing into the marketing activities and so forth, right? It is based on the historic measurement of the past value of profitability of that particular given product. Right. However, moving to the customer-centric approach changes a complete, it's a paradigm shift in the management thinking, which suggests that rather than product, how can we manage our customers well? Who are our most profitable customers? And how many products can we sell to the existing customers rather than selling more products to the same set of customers, right? So basis on that, what happens that the marketing decision is more like forward-looking, which says that the same customer can come again and again for purchase and repurchase, and we try to sell more products to them. So it is managing the customer profitability, looking into their future prospects and the future profitability. So these are the, if we look at the differentiation between these two concepts. So while we look at that, how it's going to happen in the emerging markets, so whether it is really needed to talk about, whether the things are perfectly fine to be the product centric, right? So that is being the focus of our paper, where we said that, well, in the emerging market setup, where it has always been the product selling approach or a little bit of the customer relationship building, is it important now that we move towards the customer centric approach?
That's very interesting. And we had one follow-up question, because this, given the local neighborhoods in which those small stores and emerging countries are typically operating in, do you think that they maybe can leverage that and benefit from that to develop, based on their local knowledge, like more customer-oriented focus?
Do you mean like their personal relationships, or the fact that they know, okay, these are the 10 customers? So to be honest, that was one of the things that we had also talked about when we were, trying to conceptualize this, that yes, there is definitely a much more deeper connection that these retailers build with their customers. But do they really think that deeply when they're trying to recommend a product, or, say that, oh, my customer bought this product last week, hence they're going to need this product to go with it this week, or so on and so forth. The kind of things that we are aided with analytics, it becomes so easy in the developed market context. Those decisions are not necessarily top of mind for these mom and pop stores, or even the bigger organized retailers, right? So yes, they could leverage it. And I think what Shaphali and I would agree on is that ideally, what we would want all of these emerging market retailers to do is take the best of both worlds. Take the best of your knowledge as far as your customers are concerned, your personal relationships with them, your understanding of what they think like, what they need and what they look for, and use analytics to make your decision making so much simpler. So I think that would be the ideal marriage.
And again, Simon and Rafael, you are doing research in emerging markets, and I'm sure that you might have, experienced this as an insight coming from those markets, that the landscape is too diverse. It is too diverse and fragmented. So the kind of things what I'm telling you, it is working in the urban context, but in the rural context, this relationship still exists, right? The credit thing, that I buy, I need not to pay upfront, is too very common. You just write it down in the piece of paper or in your books, right? And we will settle it down later on, right? But here in the urban context, that has really gone down. We are now talking about the UPIs and the super apps and the payment apps, right? So immediately, like even a small retailer, or even the hawker, they will have the QR code with them, and you just scan it and pay the money, right? Even you will not see that kind of technological advancement in the developed market. So those kind of things are changing. Some of the leapfrogging is amazing, and I'm sure that is actually opening a lot of opportunities for the retailers, specifically in the emerging markets.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is really a very exciting and wonderful discussion. So I would like to stay in this line of thought of coming up with these examples. And that's one thing that I really enjoyed about reading your paper, is that you really provide a wealth of examples from different channels and different solutions that are out there to serve consumers in emerging markets, and not just in emerging markets, also more broadly, actually. So I was wondering whether you could, in your perspective, tell us which are some of the solutions that are being used that you were most excited about when you were writing this paper, and to what extent do you think that there is already enough of a maturity in emerging market retail chains and nano stores to start adopting these tools?
Yeah, Divya.
Okay,
cool. Can I take the question?
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the examples that I really liked when we were working on the paper, and I think that's something that continues to stay on my mind, is the example that we gave about Alibaba's Hema stores. So obviously, being in the US for a good number of years, there were a lot of things that I had taken for granted, right? Like the fact that you can order things off an app, there's same day delivery. You can, put things in your cart on the app and then go into the store, check, like touch and, feel the product there and then buy it, have them be delivered all the way to your home, whatever it is, right? All of that stuff was so cool to me. And then I started reading up on things, obviously, as I went through the PhD program and working on this paper. I read about the Hema store example. And I was thinking that right there is wonderful convergence. It's like such a perfect little integration of, what's going on online and what's going on offline, right? So Jack Ma basically coined this term called new retail, and these Hema stores are like a living proof of what that new retail is, right? It's omni-channel strategy at its best. And I think that example is one that really stood out to me. They use analytics to drive that integration. Like that's the glue that kind of holds it together. That's the fuel that powers that vehicle. And I think that was one of the nicer, really cool, really interesting examples that captured my attention as we were writing it up. And obviously the fact that that has inspired, places like Kroger and Target and Whole Foods. And I was quite taken aback. I didn't know that that's where it came from. I thought, the US stores were coming up with these ideas themselves. But then I noticed, the inspiration comes from the emerging markets. So that's something that I wouldn't have known.
Yeah. And again, like if we look at some of the things which is quite amazing, I'm sure that those things are happening in the developed market too. But the way emerging market is embracing some of the new age technologies, and of course, when we talk about the adoption of AI or adoption of virtual reality and the augmented reality, it all comes with the adoption of analytics, because at the background, the analytics goes in. So AI-powered virtual fitting rooms, right? Virtual reality, like the person goes there and you need not to do anything. You just, just click what cloth you want to buy and you just see that whether it fits to you or not, right? Recently, when we were doing our home, the renovation of our home, and we needed some of the fittings, right? For the ambience lights and all that stuff. And I was surprised to see and quite amazed that I was being told, well, there is no, I said, see, I'm a busy professor. It's not, I really cannot travel from one end to another end of the city just to look into some of the, beautiful ambience lights. So no, there is no need for you to travel. Just open your laptop and get into the virtual reality store of a very famous, a brand, which is Asian Paints, right? So you go there and you can just look into everything. So with my mouse click, I could see all the lights, their rates, how would it look like? And if at all I have the dimensions of my room, and I can really try those fittings out there in the augmented reality form. Likewise, the virtual reality, like I want to try my, a watch I want to buy and I want to try on my wrist. There's no need that I need to take out all the watches and I just click it and they just see that how it will look like on my wrist. So there are some of the examples which are pretty amazing and which have been adopted by the retailers. And in our paper, we have actually, Rafael has rightly said, we have tried to provide, a lot of such examples. And if you have gone into the supplementary material which has been provided, it has all the more, because the paper had the limitation of the pages, right? But we have added a lot more there too in the exhibit. So I'm sure that we can add more value to the readers.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been touching on this point a little bit during the discussion already, but to what extent do you think developed countries are the benchmark here in terms of the analytics capabilities, and to what extent do retailers in emerging markets need to draw inspiration from there and strive to get there, or to what extent actually emerging markets might have some advantages? So I was wondering whether you could say a few words about this interaction.
All right, I'll take this question and then Divya can add on to it. A very interesting question, Rafael, because it has always been accepted fact that Eastern markets have always looked up to the Western markets, and they get the ideas and the innovation comes from the Western market to the Eastern markets, or the from developed market to the emerging markets, or third world countries, and also but again, at the same time, here I would like to make a point that at the same time there is a reverse innovation kind of thing too, where, because one point which we need to take in consideration, that emerging markets have less resources, but at the same time they have a wealth of creativity and come up with that how the solution can be most innovative and optimal in the presence of those less resources. So this resource constraint, yes, we look up to the developed markets that, okay, what's going on there? But we might not have the same resources available here. So it cannot be copied and taken as it is in this market. We have to innovate something, and we have to see that what suits the best to us. So hence, yes, inspiration can be taken, but at the same time, I feel that in few places we are leapfrogging. The use of mobile apps, the use of mobile phones, it is phenomenal. It is not happening in the developed market the way we are using, or the way the emerging market consumers are using mobile phone as their first screen. In the developed market, there are multiple screens for the multiple purposes. But here, you go to a retail store in the rural area, the entire business is happening on the same mobile screen. His kid is also taking online session on the same mobile phone. He is, maintaining his books, calling the supplier, calling the customers on the same phone. So this one screen, which we call like mobile phone, has been so very, important in the emerging market. So I feel this kind of paradigm shift, which is happening in the technology, is not coming from the Western market. It is very much of the emerging thing. So there where we are, and we have to kind of, like, for an example, super applications. Super apps are not something which are being truly and warmly adopted by developed market. But look at China, WeChat, or and for M-Pesa in Africa, how beautifully they have embraced such of these super apps in their lives, and which is certainly contributing for the greater good in a way. Yeah.
I completely agree with Shaphali there. I truly think that there is huge potential for the emerging markets to come up with a later but much better version of things that we are seeing in the developed markets. So I think that yes, they can take inspiration, they can take ideas, but make it better. Make it much more suitable for, as Shaphali was saying, lower resource situations, or perhaps even, serving the needs better, right? So there is huge potential for that. And I truly believe that's going to happen. I think that's the reason that we are so positive and we feel so fondly for this paper, because we truly do see that happening. It can happen. Digital payments here, digital wallets are probably used even more than what you would see in developed markets. Like I still use like the credit card that, you tap it. That's probably the extent of how advanced it is. But here you go down to buy like a little, ice cream cone, and you use Google Pay, right?
Yeah.
So it's gotten to that point, and I think it's going to surpass developed markets at a certain point in time.
Yeah. So I think we all agree that the traditional channel has been modernized, right, and adopting new technologies. And again, as you just mentioned, like the consumers are also, using smartphones, across, different socioeconomic levels and in the bottom of the pyramid as well. But also we have been, conducting research and trying to understand how to adopt these technologies, right? So I'm a little bit. I love the idea, but I'm a little bit skeptical about having like a nano store, a virtual space where you can go like to the nano store and buy some products, right? While there are so many that have not been able to even adopt a POS system, so they don't even do like basic things, like bookkeeping. So like as an analogy, they breathe, but they cannot even run, right? So what are the barriers, the challenges that you have identified towards the adoption of these analytical tools?
So yeah. No, I think the origination of this paper came from these two questions. One, that there is a need for a shift. And the second, if this shift has to happen, then how would it happen, right? Because there is a constraint, there are the challenges. So now looking at the challenges, of course, they are humongous. When we started collecting data and when we were in the field, and some of my RAs who were helping me out in this data collection, I used to go to the retail stores, forget about the mom and pop, organized retail stores. They would say, well, you're talking about the analytics. We are right now really running behind the numbers. So even though, like, as what Camilo said, that yes, you can read but cannot write. So are you walking the talk? Right? So you say that, well, I will not take the names here. You're an organized store, you're a well-known store, right? And you say that you're full of resources, but still you are not customer-centric. Why it is happening? One big thing, skill set. The skill set is not really competent enough that they can deliver what is needed. And also at the same time, I feel more than the skill set, what is important is the mindset shift, right? That the mindset of the organization or the retailer or the manager has to believe in the fact that these numbers or these analytics can help them. Because it has always been a relational or the relationship building exercise. Or it has always been, though we say that we are moving towards the engagement marketing now, but most of the stores and the managers are still into the sale orientation, literally into the sales orientation. We know the orientation, marketing orientation, right? From production to product to sales to, the relationship, right? It's like you have the salespeople, come on, man, you have to sell the product, right? You are a category manager, you just have to give the number, right? But from how you will target the consumers are missing. People are calling us when we are a consumer. People are calling us for the product which we don't need. People don't call us for the product which we need. So if that is the gap, then how we can fulfill it, right? And for that, in the paper, we have actually shown the transition path towards analytics adoption. So challenges for the organized, yes. Transition path, Divya will talk about. I'll just talk about more in terms of the challenges that now come to the small or unorganized retail store owners or the retailers, right? What do they think? They believe, well, I have a very specific or fixed capital in hand, right? And my job is, if I have put $100, for an example, $100 in my business, am I getting $150 back or not at the end of the month? Right? Cut the operational cost or other things, right? Okay. Who are the people who are working for you? Most of the people who are working in the store are the family people, right? The family members or the relatives. So what is happening is that it's all within the family. The fresh air is not coming in. The training is not there. The exposure is not there. How they will get it? This is whose responsibility? Who is responsible to make this whole idea, available to everyone? I'll give you an example of India, where government of India is nowadays taking an initiative which is Digital India, right? And if you all are aware of it, this Digital India promotes every single human being, or the Indian citizen, to have the digital payment system on their phones, have the bank accounts, because a couple of years back, even the bank accounts were like a kind of luxury for these people. Like, you cannot even open the bank account because you have to give some kind of to open it, like you have to give some kind of backing to the banks or the bankers, right? So what happens that the initiative from the government are important to make this happen and to make the retailers exposed to what is needed to become the digital. And I believe not just India, talk about China, talk about Africa or Korea, like they are actually coming up with these kind of initiatives. So likewise in India, there was, like, we've just finished that decade of innovation. So the president of India actually announced the last 10 years as the the decade for innovation in the country. And in that, everything will come in, whether it's an innovation for the retailers, innovation for the technology, innovation for the product, how we can make the most sustainable product. At the same time, this ESG kind of goals, which now government is kind of coming up with, the local authorities have to come up, with more communication. So I'll tell you that the city where I live in, the government, the state government, is very close to us. Like all the officials sits in, right? They reaches out to us and actually ask us to create the communication exercises and activities for these kind of policies and these kind of all government related initiatives, because they want all the initiatives and policies to reach out to every single person in the country. So yes, challenges are humongous in terms of resources, yes, infrastructure, yes, the skill set is not built properly, yes, but how can we make the way out in the midst of all these things? So in the paper we have talked about it. Maybe Divya can take that thing to elaborate more on that, how organized and the unorganized rural and urban retailers can do so. Yeah. Divya.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think Shaphali covered a lot, like almost all of the main challenges that we had found. On a more specific level, I think what these retailers struggle with is, okay, fine, let's say that there is a retailer who has been convinced about the value of analytics, and he or she wants to adopt analytics. Fine, okay, then what happens? How do they go about? That's the next big challenge that they face. They don't know what are the specific steps I need to take, what are the specific analytics that I need, what are the ones that will truly give me some sort of benefit, some sort of value for the kind of business that I am doing, right? So that is, it's like once you cross one hurdle, there's a next hurdle that also needs to be overcome. And that's another a big challenge that we have tried to at least address it. By no means are we saying that it's like a comprehensive solution, like take this and go find out, but it's more like a very strong step in that direction to provide them with at least a starting point, right? Obviously there's more to be done in this area. Hopefully we shall do it together, but it's in that path of helping them overcome these challenges. And to that end, what we did propose in the paper were the transition paths, right? We understand that organized emerging market retailers are at a different stage of their journey. They have a certain different set of challenges, whereas the unorganized retailers in the urban as well as in the rural setup have a different set of challenges, right? So their transition paths can't be the same. Just on account of who they are and how they are struggling, you can't expect them to follow the same steps and reach the same outcomes. So that being said, when we think about organized retailers, yes, they have comparatively, relatively deeper pockets than the unorganized retailers, which is wonderful, right? They have some amount of investment that they are able to do. But at the same time, what they lack is that access to skilled analytics professionals. Correct?
Yes.
That's the huge gap that they have. So that is, that's what they need to build on. What they require is trying to either build those analytics capabilities in-house, or somehow trying to gain those capabilities from other companies who are providing those services, right?
Yeah.
So either you build it organically in your own company, or you get it from somebody else, and there's no shame or no problem in doing either way. Whatever works for that particular organized retailer, go for it, right? If you think about the unorganized retailers, on the other hand, much more limited capital, right? If we think about the unorganized retailers, for them, it's probably better for them to try to collaborate with organized retailers who are at least closer in terms of geography, in terms of, the way that the market is, because a large proportion of the organized retailers are in the urban markets. So they deal with the same, customer base, the same sort of logistical or other issues, marketing requirements, same sort of customer behavior. So all of that, I think that is what kind of drove us to say that, okay, maybe there's potential for the organized and the unorganized urban retailers to sort of collaborate and find a way to work together, right?
Yes.
And there's
I think
also
that's a very good point. Yes.
yeah, like why not help each other, right?
Yes.
It's a known fact. At this point, it's a known fact that you cannot just compete with each other blindly. You have to find some ways of collaborating for mutual benefit. So if that's possible, we are all for it, right? So another thing that we did think of was, given how payment platforms are proliferating here in emerging markets, they have a wealth of data, right? Not just a wealth of data, they actually mostly do have the analytics capabilities to come up with reports, come up with insights, come up with ideas that the emerging market retailers can use. So they are also a very, very good option for the unorganized urban retailers to work with. And like if you think about the rural unorganized retailers, of course, for them, the leap that they have to make, the jump that they have to make is much bigger, and it's much more difficult for them because they are severely constrained as far as resources, right? Be it, human resources, be it financial resources, be it technological resources. Like, they're kind of getting it from all ends, which is really unfortunate. But that's the role that the government has to play. We do mention very clearly in our paper that this isn't something that you're just going to find a one short solution to. It has to come from different players in this entire ecosystem. So you need help from organized retailers, you need help from the government, you need help from policymakers who can come up with regulations that will make it conducive, encourage these unorganized retailers to really get the value out of analytics. Sure, they may not have the ability to find the people to do any sort of analytics, or find the data even to run any analytics on. But is it possible for a bunch of them to come together and have somebody like an expert sort of guide them, maybe help them find data, maybe help them get access to, larger data sets, or, data resources, maybe again from payment platforms, right? Are those possibilities? Why not? And that's something that we bring out in our in the transition path for them, that the unorganized rural retailers really need that push, and that push has to be driven by the government, by the policymakers, by the community itself. So that's something that we truly feel is lacking.
Yeah, and adding to this, when we talk about the government support, it cannot really go just by the government and the policymakers. We have also talked about the industry collaboration, where the pockets of knowledge repositories can be built. We call it like community knowledge repository kind of thing. And a lot of in other sectors, like if you talk about the farming, this is already being happening, where the weather forecast related stuff or the irrigation related stuff, knowledge is already being those kind of knowledge is already being disseminated to the farmers by those community based knowledge repository, which has been the collaboration of the industry and the government, and some of the experts like scientists and the doctors coming together. So likewise in the retail sector also, and you will be kind of amazed to know that, like for an example, Government of India has also initiated such e-commerce platform where not about the Flipkart and the Amazons of the world. There is a specific e-commerce platform which will actually support the smaller and the medium size retailers to put their product out there with a lesser amount of commission or the cut they have to give to the platform. So those kind of initiatives are being considering over the period of time. It's just that we need to be more aware of it, and as a research scholar, I believe that opens a whole lot of discussion among that, how that we can use the technology in the best of the fashion. Again, for the payments, Divya talked about the payment platform. Subscription model basically we are talking about, right? You have the data, like make it the analytics oriented, and you can just share that knowledge, and you can give the subscription, you take the subscription fee, the payments platform can take the fee from the retailers, and you really do not need a data scientist in your shop or in your retail store, right? You can just take the knowledge from these kind of subscriptions. So like how we have OTT platforms, right? We just subscribe for a particular movie or particular web series, right? So likewise, you can just have it like, okay, this is my target group, or in my vicinity, how much or how the consumers are buying, spending, and where are they going. All that kind of knowledge can really be available, on your fingertips.
Yeah. And I think startups or sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Rafael.
No. Please.
So I was thinking that, yes, industry collaborations, I think when we talk about industry collaborations, a potentially budding form of that could be in terms of tech-based startups or tech-based companies that can maybe develop apps like this or develop services like this, just the way that Shaphali was talking about. Go ahead, you want to make it a subscription model, as long as the retailers can see the value in it and they can see how it is affecting their their sales, their relationships with their customers. I as long as they see the value, I don't think that they would be so opposed to spending that extra if it's helping them improve their business performance. So there is a role for everybody if they just want to play it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the interesting discussion. It's really insightful, like how enthusiastic you're about all the different innovations that are possible. And of course, there's also the drawbacks, but I think it's insane what is happening.
I think what's really interesting is that this is probably just the tip of the iceberg, right? So we're only getting started, and I have a feeling that this is the first of probably many conversations, because this topic is going to give us enough to talk for the next several decades, I shall say.
Sorry, so, I didn't hear you anymore.
It's been really great to have you in the podcast, right? So this is the Emerging Market Retail Podcast, and of course we had to have your paper, right? Which is the first three words are emerging market retail, right? And so it's just a perfect fit, and we're really
the
happy
name of the paper was inspired on our podcast, Rob. Sorry, we have to say that, right?
We gave you a great opportunity to just put these two together.
Yeah. So, I mean...
But no, thank you so much. Yes, it was truly, truly fun to be able to discuss this. Usually it's just Shaphali and me having this conversation. So it's nice to have, three more individuals who are just as fascinated by this area of research as we are.
And thank you for providing this opportunity to talk about this paper to the world, because once we write and once it gets published, that we always get onto another project, right? So it was a good recap for us to go back and talk about our published one. So thank you for giving this opportunity. And I just want to add one more thing here, that in the paper we also have given a very insightful metrics, right? So which talks about that how at different levels, which kind of analytics can help, where the retailers can focus on in their upstream and the downstream activities. So this is pretty handy for the retailers, that how they can use it and can make the most out of it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for adding that. We're unfortunately running out of time, because I think we still have many exciting topics to discuss. But like I said, this is, I think, a huge topic, and one where you've really provided, I would say, a very important first step for many academics like us who are really interested in this domain. And again, I think this will be a long-term conversation, of which we're just having the first discussion today. So thank you very much for joining us, and it was lovely to have you.
Thank you for having us. It was so wonderful talking about this with all of you.
This podcast is brought to you by Tilburg University.